At the end of 2021 and the start of 2022, something happened that looked small on the surface, but its impact hit like a digital earthquake that shook an entire country. It wasn't a cyber army. It wasn't a massive intelligence agency. It was one person, a hacker, sitting quietly in his home in the US. He opened his laptop, stared at the screen for a beat, and then decided to do what nobody had dared before, to turn the internet off for all of North Korea. Why? The reason is stranger than you'd expect. North Korea had attacked him first. They tried to break into his device, steal his files, steal his secrets. Nobody stood up for him. Not the government, not the companies, not the security agencies. So he told himself, if nobody's going to defend me, then I'll defend myself. What he did wasn't just revenge. It was a declaration of digital war, a single strike that rattled a completely closed system. The result? The internet in North Korea disappeared, like someone hit a countrywide off switch. The shock was so big that even US intelligence and the Pentagon, they started looking for him. They wanted to know, how did one man take down a whole system? But the cost was terrifying, a direct threat from inside the ruling Kim family, a threat from a regime that could, with the press of a button, set the world on fire. The story you're about to hear happened only once in the history of the internet. It proves something chilling. The next war might not begin with an explosion. It might begin with a keystroke. Get ready. What comes next will change the way you think about everything you trust behind your screen. If you just stumbled on our story by chance, welcome. Here, you'll find thrilling, mysterious, and strange stories from all around the world. Subscribe and be part of the journey. And now, let's enjoy the details that make the story. At the start of 2022, everything in North Korea seemed perfectly fine. The North Korean army was proud of itself after a successful ballistic missile test. Parades, fireworks, national celebrations. They acted like they'd just won the World Championship of Power. But the joy didn't last long. Right after their latest missile launch, the entire internet in North Korea went dark, as if someone had slammed a giant off switch. Official news sites crashed. Airline booking systems froze. Within minutes, the country was digitally silent. And it didn't stop there. Not only did their internal sites collapse, their connection to the outside world vanished completely. No emails, no business communications. Major companies went offline overnight. It was like North Korea had turned into a deserted digital island, cut off from the rest of the planet. The timing was suspicious. Many thought it was some kind of Western retaliation, punishment for North Korea's show of military strength. But the truth? It was far simpler and way more shocking. This wasn't a country striking back against another. It was one single message, sent by one single person. The hacker behind it wasn't a commander of a cyber army. He wasn't a magician or a secret agent working for some hidden power. He was just a regular guy, wearing shorts and a t-shirt, pacing between his laptop and the fridge, grabbing a snack or a drink while working. His name was P4X. But who was P4X, really? He wasn't some kind of superhuman genius, and he didn't have an army of hackers behind him. He was a cybersecurity expert, a guy whose job was to protect systems, to stop cyber attacks before they reached their victims. Years of experience had taken him into serious work, even with places like the Pentagon and other US federal agencies. He knew how systems breathe, where their weak points hide, and how to open or close their digital doors. The attack that pushed him to retaliate wasn't political. It was deeply personal. On January 24th, 2021, P4X received a strange file. Looked harmless, but it was carrying a hidden virus. Google's security team later confirmed that the attack was linked to North Korean intelligence. They weren't targeting him randomly. They were after experts like P4X, trying to break into their systems, steal their secrets, and gather intel on Western cybersecurity methods. But P4X wasn't your average target. He spotted the trap, blocked it, and stopped the intrusion cold. And what he saw behind that attack? It felt like watching a planned burglary. Digital thieves mapping out every corner of his house before breaking in. He felt violated, exposed, angry. So he did what anyone would do. He reported it to U.S. authorities. But the response he got? Pathetic. No real protection. No serious follow-up. Just empty reassurances like, "We're looking into it. Don't worry about it." That didn't sit right with him. His pride and his anger wouldn't let it go. He'd been attacked by a nation-state, and no one cared. So he made a decision. If no one was going to fight back for him, he'd fight back himself. And what happened next would become one of the most shocking acts of digital revenge in the history of the internet. A whole year passed. No calls, no meetings, no protection. Not a single sign that anyone, government, agencies, or companies, cared about what had happened to him. That silence burned inside him like fire. Every passing day fed his anger, his pride, his sense of being abandoned. And when it became clear that no one was going to lift a finger, P4X decided to strike back, in his own way, a way no one could have seen coming. He saw hacking not as destruction, but as deterrence without blood. A strike that could shut down a machine, not people. So he started his own private investigation. He gathered data, traced the architecture of North Korea's digital infrastructure, and dove deep into a network that, to his surprise, looked shockingly fragile. What he found hit him like lightning. Their entire system was ancient, broken, almost defenseless. North Korea's internet wasn't built to withstand anything. It was like a fortress made of paper. Worse still, their entire connection to the global internet ran through just two main routers. Two. That's it. Imagine a whole nation's online life, government, businesses, communications, squeezed through only two digital gates. And even those routers weren't secure. No advanced firewalls, no distributed backups, just outdated, sloppy, exposed systems. To an expert like P4X, it was laughable, a setup that practically begged to be taken down. He thought to himself, if they can breach our systems this easily, how can they flex their power when their own house is made of glass? Then he began. No secret military tools, no elite software, just lines of code he wrote himself, simple, elegant, devastating. He rented a few remote servers, ran his scripts, and started watching his plan unfold. He exploited their outdated servers, targeted vulnerabilities in Red Star OS, North Korea's homegrown operating system, a relic filled with holes and forgotten security flaws. He went after the weak spots no one had ever thought to patch. But his attack wasn't personal. It wasn't aimed at citizens. It was aimed squarely at the system itself. Government websites, airline booking networks, news portals, even institutional servers. Within moments, the entire country started slipping offline. It was as if North Korea, as a digital entity, simply ceased to exist. And still, P4X had a line he refused to cross. He didn't want to hurt ordinary people. Most North Koreans couldn't even access the real internet. They lived behind a closed, government-controlled intranet, a filtered, censored imitation of the real web. His message wasn't for them. It was for the regime, a warning shot in binary code. What happened next wasn't just a technical shutdown. It was a silent message that shook an entire system. But the aftermath of that bloodless act of cyber war turned out to be far darker and far more dangerous than anyone could have imagined. Every keystroke was watched. Every button pressed was counted. The so-called government internet didn't live in every home. It existed in official buildings, ministry offices, select universities, and a few big internet cafes in the cities. Access inside urban circles was somewhat available. Travel between towns, heavily restricted. For someone in a remote village, getting onto a connected machine might as well be impossible. The global internet was a totally different story. It existed, yes, but it was guarded like a sealed treasure. Less than 1% of the population had the right to access it. It was reserved for a tiny elite, officials, senior officers, some security organs, the ones with full access to the outside world. They watched, they collected info, maybe even hacked. The average citizen didn't know Google the way we do. They didn't watch YouTube. They didn't send external emails. That's exactly why P4X didn't aim to hurt the people. His target was the regime itself, to expose its fragility, to give it a sharp pinch. But he didn't act on impulse only. He had his reasons. A full year went by after the hacking attempts and his reports. A year with no real words, no real action. Repression, frustration, and stolen pride turned his anger into a decisive choice. He'd strike back himself. He started gathering intel, probing North Korea's network like a researcher dissecting an old machine. What he found stunned him. Outdated infrastructure, primitive and wide open. The country's links to the outside world were terribly fragile. Only 2 digital channels, 2 main routers carrying every in and out traffic. 2 routers for an entire nation. Even those routers weren't well secured or professionally distributed. North Korea's OS, Red Star, was old and riddled with vulnerabilities. With his penetration testing experience, P4X could immediately tell the difference between a system that ran tightly and one that was neglected. Then he got to work. No secret military toolkits, no mythical tech. He used the basics any skilled hacker would reach for. Short scripts, rented remote servers, and exploitation of old servers and weak spots in the architecture. He hit government systems, airline booking platforms, news sites, institutional servers. He grabbed the digital keys. In moments, North Korea looked as if someone had pressed the country's global off switch. Their connection to the world dropped. External networks stopped. P4X's goal wasn't to harm people. Most citizens lived inside a closed, monitored intranet. A strict, filtered version of the real internet that doesn't let them engage with the global digital space. So his strike was aimed at the state's digital apparatus, not the trapped citizens. He decided to keep the blackout to 1 week. A message. This is what you can face now. Come back at it, and the next hit will be worse. The regime's reaction? Complete official silence. No statement, no denial, no explanation. Some doubted P4X's claim, thought maybe he'd just flipped some lights and made himself a hero. But P4X wasn't bluffing. He recorded everything. Screenshots, videos of each step, proof of the full sequence. He took that evidence to Wired magazine. They verified everything and published the story in February 2022, confirming a single individual, no backers, no foreign sponsorship. 2 years after the event, P4X did something rare in hacker culture. He revealed his identity and stepped into the open. This wasn't just a technical breach. It was a test of digital power limits, a message to those who think military might hides internal rot. The lessons he left behind were stark. A state's power can be undermined from inside its own machines, and technology, even when used to control, can come back to slap the hand that reaches for it. If you made it this far, hit that like button and drop a quick comment. It doesn't cost you anything, but it really helps a lot. Now let's get back to the story. In April 2024, Wired ran a bombshell. They outed the guy who shut down an entire country's internet. His name, Alejandro Cáceres, 39 years old. He runs his own cybersecurity firm. Born in the US, Colombian roots on both sides. Looks like any ordinary American guy. Think about what he did. He targeted a dictatorship where the machines of power rule with an iron fist. That wasn't just poking servers. That was a personal risk so big, the line between activist and criminal goes blurry. Still, Alejandro, aka Pax, didn't hide. He walked into the light and said he'd never been touched or directly threatened since the operation. He wasn't reckless. He ran the numbers. He figured the regime's record of political killings over the past 45 years was surprisingly low. In his count, only 2. One was the brother of Kim Jong-un, the other an American who happened to be there. Based on that tally, he decided the danger was real but tolerable. Then, days before he publicly revealed himself, something chilling happened. Something that snapped his alertness up to 11. After the attack, he'd lived what looked like a normal life, trying dating apps, meeting people. Then he matched with a profile that seemed perfect. Canadian neuroscientist of Japanese descent, smart messages, cultured talk. They agreed to meet. When they actually met, the mask slipped. The woman in front of him wasn't Canadian or Japanese. She was Korean. Worse, the tone of her messages online didn't match how she wrote in person. The texts read like they were written by someone else. He searched for her online. No real name, no job, no university, no trace. Then she dropped the line that froze him. She told him bluntly that she was from the Kim family, the ruling clan. Alejandro's answer? Cold as ice. Oh, you're from the Kim family. Bye, he cut contact. He didn't want to walk into a trap. He didn't just pull back and go quiet. He told U.S. military and intelligence officers what had happened. Their reply was a warning. Things could happen. Stay alert. From that day forward, his habits changed. He took precautions seriously. If you walked into his office now, you'd see the usual setup. Keyboard, mouse, mic. But you'd also see something else. An automatic weapon within reach. Not because he loves guns, but because he learned not to ignore military warnings. After Cáceres outed himself to the world, his life didn't flip upside down. He still preferred staying home, hated crowds, and avoided sketchy neighborhoods. The one thing that did change? His phone. It never stopped ringing. Notifications, messages, about 200 a day. Some wanted to hire him, some wanted advice, a lot just wanted to chat so they could flex to their friends. He said it straight. I'm tired. The pressure's too much. Still, he stayed active on X, Twitter. The same sharp, snarky voice people knew. Some called him a hero. Others called him a criminal who deserved prison. But you can't ignore the fact he inspired a lot of people. folks who were silent and scared realized courage doesn't need an army. Sometimes one person who knows why they're standing up is enough. Not everyone applauded. A lot of critics slammed him, first among them D. Vital, an ex-NSA hacker. He warned that lone wolf revenge can screw up entire intelligence operations or expose secret tools the agencies quietly use. In short, you might be mad and want justice, but rogue moves can make things messier, not better. Some argued Cáceres' actions could hurt national interests or threaten national security. Still, a common question kept coming up. Who protects people like Cáceres? Why leave independent hackers to face states alone? Heavy questions, necessary ones. Then something nobody expected happened. Instead of punishing him, the US government did the unthinkable. They pulled him in. After he'd knocked North Korea offline, Cáceres found the US didn't want to lock him up. They wanted to recruit him. Rather than a courtroom, he landed in the shadowy world of American cyber espionage, a club only a few ever join. A Pentagon contractor unofficially took him under their wing and invited him to demo his techniques to top defense and intel officials. Suddenly, he wasn't a potential risk. He was a new tool for national security. He showed them moves once called rebel tactics. Now those same moves were taught as advanced models for offense and defense. People were impressed by his speed, agility, and creativity. Things bureaucracy just can't match when threats change every day. He didn't stop there. Cáceres launched a long-term hacking project targeting real foreign entities. Not to wreak havoc, but to gather intel and rattle oppressive systems without hurting civilians. He wanted to send symbolic shocks that exposed tyrannies to the world. He said bluntly that he's working on new operations against foreign targets. He won't name names. But the goal is clear. Prove independent hackers can make a real difference, without waiting for orders or drowning in institutional red tape. So the big question now is, did his message get through to the Koreans? Cáceres confidently claimed that his message did reach the North Korean government, that they'd never dare to strike again after the hit he delivered. But reality said otherwise. The attacks didn't stop. The methods didn't change. And soon enough, North Korean hackers were once again targeting cybersecurity researchers around the world. But how can such an isolated, underdeveloped country pull off cyber attacks at that level? The truth is, North Korea's hackers don't operate from inside the country. Most of them work out of China, Russia, and parts of Southeast Asia, using fake networks and advanced masking tools to hide their origins. For North Korea, cyber warfare isn't just an option. It's an official weapon, right alongside nukes and missiles. Since Kim Jong-un took power, he's used cyber attacks as a show of strength. His way of saying to the world, we're not weak. We can strike in the digital realm too. Their first major display of digital power came in 2013, when South Korea was hit by a massive wave of cyber attacks targeting banks, media outlets, and corporations. Investigations later revealed the culprits: North Korean state-backed hackers. The regime operates two main cyber divisions. The first is an internal military office that monitors citizens, controls online activity, and collects domestic data. The second, and far more dangerous, is the Reconnaissance General Bureau, the arm responsible for infiltrating foreign networks, stealing classified data, and running espionage campaigns. At the heart of that bureau lies the infamous Unit 110, believed to have breached top-secret U.S.-South Korea documents. Members of this unit are also suspected of launching the devastating 2014 attack on Sony Pictures. an assault that cost the company hundreds of millions of dollars. But the most dangerous force of all is their elite unit. Roughly 6,000 hackers scattered across Russia, India, Malaysia, and Belarus. They're the masterminds behind North Korea's global hacking empire. Cáceres' strike didn't destroy their capabilities, but it did hit their pride. It was a symbolic slap in the face, proof that even totalitarian systems can be shaken by one person with skill and courage. Still, Cáceres later admitted he wished his blow had cut deeper. His final message was sharp and brutal. America has some of the best hackers in the world, but when we're provoked, we freeze, we're scared. That has to change. He didn't just talk. He drew comparisons. In 2023 alone, Russian hacker groups stole over $1 billion through ransomware attacks. Meanwhile, North Korea's cyber thieves pulled off crypto heists worth more than $1 billion, funneling the funds straight into Kim's regime. As Cáceres put it bluntly, we just sit and watch while they hack us one by one. That's when he began pushing for a total shift in America's cyber strategy, arguing that the answer isn't massive bureaucratic cyber armies, but small, agile strike teams. 1 or 2 hackers, that's all you need. A clean, precise hit. No red tape. No endless meetings. Just action that hurts the enemy. He added, I spent 2 whole years trying to convince the US government that cyber warfare needs elite micro teams. Small, smart, fast. You hit the weak spot, exactly like I did with North Korea. And then came the question that still hangs in the air. If you were in his place, would you have done the same? Or would you have played by the rules, waiting for help that might never come? And if you enjoyed this story, share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think what Cáceres did was courage or recklessness? And do you believe we'll see more people like him in the future? Lone hackers taking on entire regimes. If you liked this story, hit that like button and subscribe. It really makes a difference. And if you love tales like this one, check out The Biggest Digital Heist in History and The Robbery That Shocked Arizona and Stumped the FBI. Both are incredible true stories and absolutely worth your time. See you in the next one.